5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Crouch, touch, set.
Welcome to the 5th edition of This Week in Rugby, powered by RugbyMag.com. I'm Alex Goff, Editor-in-Chief, and we're going all over the place with this episode. We're talking about the kids, national teams, clubs and colleges. So let's get started with the under-20s. The USA under-20s played the Canada under-20s in a 2-game series at the National Sports Center in Blaine, Minnesota. Now, it ended up being a sweep for the Canadians, but maybe a little bit closer than just pure domination. The USA team was actually tied with Canada with 10 minutes to go in the first game, 16-16, before giving up a bit of a soft try, losing 26-16. Kind of the opposite scenario in the second game, where they were down 27-7 before coming back to make it a little bit closer, 30-19. What does this say about the U20's prospects for the Junior World Championships? Well, it doesn't say a lot of good things, in the sense that last year, at the same time, the USA swept Canada in Canada and went on to win the Junior World Rugby Trophy. That gave them promotion to the Junior World Championships, but that's going to be a huge ask in June. They have South Africa, England, and France to play in their pool, and really the chances of them winning any of those games are slim. They have to work much harder, and head coach Jason Kelly, who still has a lot of work to do to nail down his squad to get one win, possibly against Fiji, to stay in the top area. Staying in that top tier is good for the U20s. It's also good for the USA Sevens team. We talked last week about how the Sevens team had done what they needed to do in Glasgow to stay in the top core group of 12. Well, they followed that up with a really nice performance in London. They made the plate final. They lost in the plate final, but there were some really excellent things to come out of that tournament as well. We saw Brett Thompson emerge as a real star player. He hadn't been getting much starting time, but you can see that he scored a couple of nice tries for the USA at the tournament. He actually led the team with 5 tries. We also saw them do something they'd never done before, and that is beat South Africa. Not only did they beat them, but they beat South Africa twice in that tournament. That bodes well for the World Championships, the World Cup coming up in Russia at the end of June. What can we expect from the Eagles Sevens team when they go to Russia? Well, I don't really think that that should be a major goal for fans to think about them winning it or being in the top and the upper echelon. It's an extremely difficult tournament. Even if you go 2-1 in pool play, you may not actually get into the Cup quarterfinals because there are so many teams. I think we're better off having a look at how they finished this season. They finished it so well, top 8, 3 tournaments in a row, 2 plate championships, and catching Canada to finish 11th when they were worried about even finishing 12th. That was great. Let's look at the World Cup as a little bit of gravy. Now we're looking on to the college championships, and last week we saw 2 men's college champions crowned. We saw the Division II and the Division I AA. In Division II, well, University of Minnesota Duluth looked almost untouchable. They were so big and so powerful, steamrolling over everyone. But remember, defense usually wins these championship games, and Salisbury University, they defended extremely well and ended up beating Duluth in the final. But the big surprise team has to be in D1 AA, University of Central Florida. They were sort of the red-headed stepchild of the entire Final Four. They didn't have the resources of Dartmouth. They didn't have the quasi-varsity status of Western Washington. They didn't have the full varsity status of Lindenwood. But what they did have was a bunch of big, strong athletes and a belief in themselves and a very simple game plan that worked. They were going to pummel their opposition and pummel them into submission. That works, but it only works if you have the fitness to back it up. You can't just run pick and jams, pick and jams, pick and jams, and not be fit, because you'll flag after a while and the faster teams will burn you. Dartmouth tried to do that to Central Florida, didn't work out. Lindenwood tried to do that to Central Florida, especially with their great fullback, Morgan Finley. But what Central Florida did was shut him down in the second half, and they won. Well done, Central Florida Knights. Now let's have a look at the club scene. The Elite Cup had their semifinals last week, and this was kind of an odd one because we had two groups of teams that had played each other a couple of times, so they knew each other very well. Were we going to see the same results in the third game? So New York Athletic Club had beaten Life University twice. That earned them a home semifinal, and then Life comes into town and wins 41-17. It really wasn't even close. Why was that? Well, Athletic Club has had a bunch of injury problems. That certainly has undercut them. And part of it is the way that they fashioned their team. They don't have the depth. They don't have extra competition to play. They've been testing their best players, but they don't have a really good competition for their second line. So their second line wasn't strong. And in fact, in the B team game there, Life University won by about 70 points. On Life University's side, they are coming together very well. They've got a bunch of players who are national team caliber or close to it. Chris Headley, Cornelius Dirksen, Tui Osborne, who of course played for the USA Sevens team before. But the guy who's really coming along right now is their flanker, Benji Goff. No relation to me, just the same last name. Benji Goff is a University of Tennessee center who's been moved to loose forward at Life, and now he's starting to turn heads. He's been playing terrifically well. That 41-17 victory for Life University is really a heads up to the rest of the country. They might be the best in the nation. Now we've got some highlights for you from San Francisco Golden Gate against Old Puget Sound Beach.
Old Puget Sound Beach went down to San Francisco to play San Francisco Golden Gate at Sheeran Field at Treasure Island. This is the Elite Cup semifinal. It's the second one on the West Coast, and it was a real tight one, much tighter than the two games that these two teams have played before. Golden Gate scored an early try, but Old Puget Sound Beach gave as good as they got. Here's a penalty kick from Matt Truville to get them on the scoreboard. A lot of pressure from Golden Gate got them a penalty opportunity. Volney Rouse, no problem with that one. And this Old Puget Sound Beach team can really score from just about anywhere. Check out this break and the kick ahead. The ball bouncing all over the place. And who comes up with it? Beach gets it. Miles Craigwell takes the pass. Very good support work from him. And he's around under the post. Great try for Beach. Check out this scrum drive from Beach. Shove Golden Gate off the ball. Ball gets moved wide. Nick Hawkins, he splits the defense. Good fend. And he's over. It really looks like the visitors might actually pull off a shocker here in the first half. But after that, it looked like Golden Gate had more of the run of play. They didn't have the run of points, but they certainly had a lot more possession and a lot more territory. Here they are, camped out in the 22 against Beach, trying to break their way through repeatedly, but the tackles are there. And eventually, they got put into touch. Great defensive work from the Seattle club. More of the same from Golden Gate. This time they get a penalty. They decide to run it. Mosi Timoteo says, let's tap it, let's run. They're stopped the first time around, but the ball gets put out quickly to Paula Fukafuka. Trust us, he gets over. Try for Golden Gate. Well, it worked once. Why won't it work again? Mosi Timoteo takes the tap once more on a penalty close in, and they get it out under the post. Big shove by the forwards. Did they get it down? Referee Rena Wira has a look. Yep, it's good. Try Golden Gate. And that'll be enough to do it. 22-17. Golden Gate had to work for every inch of that. But they do get through to the final. They will take on Life University in Glendale on May 25th.
We're looking ahead next week to the Division I club playoffs. We also have Division II and Division III. But the thing about the Division I that I wanted to talk about was really the level of competition. You know that I've been complaining for quite a while that a round of 32 in a 65-70 team competition doesn't make any sense. There really aren't enough good teams to warrant a playoff level of 32. But now, because we've had what used to be the Super League teams come back into Division I, the round of 16 is actually very compelling. We have matchups like Glendale against Belmont Shore. We have PAC, we have Austin Blacks, we have Old Puget Sound Beach, Denver Barbarians, watch out for them. We have a number of excellent teams playing in the round of 16. Some very good teams will not make it into the quarterfinals, and that semifinal bracket, when we see that Final Four, boy will they be good. Watch out for Metropolis out of Minneapolis as well. But what's gratifying to see is that this competition is finally what the top players wanted to get out of the playoffs and out of Division I. The problem is, will we see it next year? I'm not so sure we will. We know San Francisco Golden Gate has already pulled themselves out of Division I playoffs. We know that New York Athletic Club never even went in. We know now that Life University is seriously thinking about not playing a Division I league next year, partly because of travel costs. Their travel costs are astronomical. But they're also looking at the level of competition. Could they fashion a better playoff going into next year on their own? Old Puget Sound Beach, maybe they're also in that boat. We only see teams from Southern California, maybe Texas, Mid-Atlantic, being really happy with their competition. There are little problems in the Northeast and the Midwest, and even in Colorado, and there are big problems in the South and in the Pacific Coast in fashioning a real league season. So the league season itself is still a mess, but let's be happy that the final 16 are so much fun to watch. I'm Alex Goff for RugbyMag.com. Zachary Halpern is behind the camera and editing. Thank you very much for watching This Week in Rugby.
And wait! 2, 3, and wait!